everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Louisa and I am doing my best here on my videos to marry the concepts of spiritual growth and inner development with what is called mental illness, but could also be just simply psychological, emotional distress. You know, the things that many of us are going through right now as we unravel and resolve a lot of trauma on the planet. So wherever you are, welcome to you, and I'm going to try my hardest to keep this teaching kind of on the ground without too many spiritual concepts, but forgive me if I do talk about dimensions and concepts which you may not be familiar with. Just bear with it, because it's getting increasingly harder for me to describe what I know without using these terms. The experience of multidimensionality, of experiencing myself in many dimensions and understanding my own, I guess you could call them soul aspects, having access to soul aspects which speak to me from the past or the future, and from other planets, extraterrestrial memory. All of these things are kind of mishmashed in what I have to offer, so it's very hard for me to speak in any other terms. At least it's getting increasingly so. But I'll try my best to keep this down to earth. So here goes. This video is the start of a series which I'm going to do on busting programs. So whether you think in terms of spiritual ascension or not, a lot of us, when we're going through change, we have to bust a program, the program that's running inside us, like an old outdated piece of software that tells us what to think, how to act, what's appropriate. It kind of keeps the system running, you know, and there was a purpose for that program at the time when you first had it installed. Most of us get our programs installed like a kind of foundational program when we're very little. In fact, we all do. We are 0 to 5, highly impressionable. Our minds are in a state of waking hypnosis. We absorb everything that we're told. We believe it. We're like little sponges. So that formative years is so critical to the programs that actually get lodged into the very foundations of our psyche. And we often don't know that they're running because they're so much a part of us. They're embedded into our system. It's a bit like, you know, Windows 10 operating software or something on the computer. We hardly kind of think about it because it is what we see. It's all we see. So much the same with our own programs. It's kind of all we see and all we know. So to update your own programs, your own software, is a hell of a job. I got to admit, I've been working on this stuff for years now, and I'm, you know, constantly being challenged. It never seems to end because, you know, you have to go through a period first of questioning the old programs, the old beliefs. What's the story that is not making me happy? And then you have to go through a period of, I guess, trusting that whatever new things are coming your way are going to be equally as fulfilling, and that can be a terrifying time. And then you have to adjust to a new program. You have to integrate the new learning and the new knowledge. So that whole process is a tough task. And the bad news is there's quite a lot of programs we have to bust. I'm going to try and present them and perhaps speak one program per video or something like that. We'll see how we go. So that's the bad news. There's a lot of programs. The good news is there's never been a time like now to bust programs. It is such an exciting time on this planet to be alive, for one thing. The information that is available to us now is amazing. We have this thing called the internet, which is like a collective mental telepathy space where we can kind of communicate and share ideas, and we can work with like-minded people, because views on this planet are going to be very disparate at the moment. It's a melting pot, and it's all for a good reason why this would be so. So as well as it being an excellent time to change your programs, it's the time to tune into your own belief system. What do I believe for myself? So whatever I'm presenting today is not meant to be, I'm not installing a new program onto you. What I'm trying to encourage you to do is find your own programs. Get rid of the old ones, find new ones. You know, take back your power to create the kind of psychology that is going to create a really good reality for you, right? So it all starts with inside. What are the stories we're telling ourselves? What language are we using? What do we believe? Because if those things are limiting, then we're going to have a limited experience. That's the way it works, guys. That's the law of the universe. One of them. So, you know, you've got to get in there. You've got to get into your own mind and heart and weed out anything that doesn't work for you anymore. Yeah. So, prepare to be a little challenged. Maybe I'm going to start with what I'm calling the primary program. So, the primary program is kind of like the one that I see as like the foundation for all the others to even exist. And this primary program, I'm calling it the I Am Separate program. So it's this ongoing theme that we've seen down through the many ages of our civilization, where we've been taught that we are separate to our reality, that we live here. We're kind of like, if you can imagine watching a movie, it's like you, the ego, are an observer of that movie. And the movie, your life, is just kind of playing out, right? So random things happen and these people enter your life, and, you know, with your own family, it might seem like you just got dropped from nowhere into this particular family. You didn't choose them, right? You didn't have any power over that. Or, you know, your financial situation, well, it's not my fault that this is how much I earn, or it's not my fault that I got this illness, or yeah, so it's a kind of powerlessness that comes from this idea that you're separate, that you're just an observer, that you have no control over what's going on, and you're not really connected to it either, that it's playing out in front of you like the screen, but perhaps you aren't immersed in it or connected to it. A lot of us live our lives like that. We're not fully present. We're not really participating in them. We're just kind of watching them from a space that isn't connected and vital and energized. And I understand the difference, because most of my life I also lived like that. I was very dead almost, you know. I was so living in my head, and that's what we get trained to do, to live, to be worrying, to be thinking about the past, to be worrying about the future, and forgetting just to breathe, just to listen. Yeah, so this obsession with the mental kind of it exacerbates our sense of separation. Have you ever maybe, like, sat down and watched the sunset, let's say, and, you know, people often, they watch the sunset, but the mind is so in the way. The mind is like labeling it, oh, that's a beautiful sunset, and then the camera comes out and we want to photograph the sunset, and we're kind of thinking about, you know, recording it. We must record it because we're going to show it to our friends. Oh, this amazing sunset. Yeah, so there's this chitter chatter that's going on. And it's so hard for us sometimes to just be in the sunset, just to be with it, communing with it. Now that is the opposite to separation, is to be at one with the world and your experience, to be truly connected to it. It's not your fault if that's how you are. If you find that you perpetually have difficulty being present with your reality and your experience, this is the training, this is the program I'm talking about, right? This program that says I'm separate, and it plays out in a ton of different ways. That's just one. Another way is this very deep fears that we have that we're all alone. That if the conclusion is, well, if I'm separate, that means I'm all alone, right? Because I'm just me. This is like, it's like you've kind of landed in this little pod called a human body, and you're all alone in it. I mean, no one can get into it, can they? And you can't get out of it, so you're kind of stuck in it alone. This existential fear of being alone, and actually we could call it terror, because I've gone to these places, you know, and I think sometimes people who suffer from mental illness diagnoses will know what I'm talking about, because we go to the dark places and we feel the terror of being alone. And if you have been one of those people who've gone through a psychotic experience or something that's labeled madness, or you feel that your experience was so far removed from everybody else's reality at the time, now that is a very terrifying place of loneliness, to be so disconnected from the whole. But you don't have to be psychotic to have experienced that terror either. Another diagnosis that feels these things acutely would be people who have a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, where, you know, the fear of abandonment is linked to abandonment from caregivers when you were little. And, you know, don't worry too much about the diagnoses, because I'm just using them as stereotypes, I suppose, shortcuts to describe what I'm saying. But anyone can have this experience as well, is to have felt abandoned as a child, as a little baby especially. It's absolutely terrifying. Now, when a baby is brought up ideally, that terror will be mitigated by the constant closeness of the mother. And that's what the mother-baby bond is designed to do. It's designed to make this entrance into this quite harsh physical reality that we experience, where we feel separate. It softens that, it cushions it. It reminds us that it's okay, we've got somebody there, someone to care about us. And that's why the mother-baby bond is not only so important in babyhood, infancy, but it is there your whole life. You will always, when you feel at your loneliness, you know, often the mother will be thought of, the connection to the mother. Even if your mother really wasn't there, you know, and as an adult in hindsight you can look back and go, no, she wasn't really there for me, emotionally or in any other way, but you'll still crave her. You'll crave her. That imprint will be there, and that strong desire for merging connection, right? Now, that strong desire for emerging connection, that also comes up with our intimate relationships. That's what we desire and crave from our union with the person we love romantically. But I probably don't need to tell you guys that it doesn't last long, even if we do get a little glimpse of that now and then, even if we do feel that amazing connection with somebody. You know, we have to come back, we have to wake up every day and say to ourselves, well, I got to do this thing called life, and it feels like I'm alone, you know, and then stressful things come along and you feel even more alone. Those are the times that really test us. So I want to contrast that feeling of being alone with the feeling of being in love. Let's go back to intimate romantic partnership. And if you've ever had that feeling, you'll know how connected you feel. Like you feel not only connected to the person that you're falling in love with, like that's the real buzz right there, but you sort of feel connected to the whole world. Like you're just in such a beautiful space that nothing can go wrong, everything's fine. Your energy is so expanded, so whoever you meet, they're kind of like, wow, you're really glowing, you look amazing, and you feel it, right? And you're just projecting all this really good vibes all everywhere you go. So that love, that state of love, is also a state of connection, and it's the opposite to the state of separation. So what I want to suggest to you guys is that the old program, the one we're kind of debunking, dissolving, and getting rid of, is this idea that we're separate, that we don't belong here and we're not connected to it, and replace that with this beautiful sense of connection to the whole, that actually put your feet on the ground, close your eyes and feel that connection to the earth, because you were born here and you belong here. This is the place you're meant to be. If you're here right now, breathing, listening to this, you're meant to be here. You're part of the earth family, And you know, it's when I think of that, I think of the Bible and I think of religion. And unfortunately, as much as there's beautiful beautiful ethos and principles and foundations in all of the religions, just to pick on one of them for a second, but the Christian Bible, you know, teaching us kind of separation from the Garden of Eden, and teaching us dominion over nature, that we are like above nature and better than nature. That's one of the ways that the program has been sustained. Because if you look at the indigenous cultures, they believed the opposite. They believed that they were part of nature, connected to nature at all times. They never lost their sense of connection. They were like the animals and the trees and the plants in that respect. They had a constant communion with nature and felt themselves to be part of it. And as a result, they didn't abuse it. See, one of the benefits of busting this program is that we're actually going to find that we take much better care of our planet. That's what's going to be happening. It'll be a natural evolution from our current situation where, you know, I don't need to tell you guys what we're doing to our planet. I'm sure as sensitive beings, many of you are grieving deeply about what's happening. But please take heart that this internal revolution that can go on within inside you, as you reconnect to the whole, as you take your place amongst the people of the earth, connected to the planet, and know that you're meant to be here, you have a right to be here, and that you can live up to that responsibility of taking care of and being a guardian, then you're doing your bit. And so it will be. It's like dominoes at the moment. The rate of ascension and awakening is rapid. So, you know, do your bit and focus on that, and all will be well. So the feeling of being deeply connected to the world, to the universe, to nature, has a profound effect on our experience of reality. And it is a much nicer space of consciousness to be from, to be experiencing from, because automatically there is a sense of trust. There is a sense of, just like the baby in the mother's arms, there is a sense of trust that just being you is all you need to do, and that you are here to be loved, you are here to be accepted, and you are here to participate and contribute to the betterment of the world. And I think on an essential level, we actually all would agree with that and believe that. But this program gets in the way. This program instills in us fear, because that's one of the primary emotions that comes out of the state of separation, is fear. That I can't trust life, that people aren't there for me, that bad things happen just because, kind of randomly. Now, when you come from a place of connection to nature and to the world and the universe, there's an intuitive trust that even if things are not panning out as well as you'd like, that this is actually supporting you, that it's serving you and teaching you and helping you in some way. One of the places where we get to work with this stuff truly is when we are suffering, when we're in distress, because that's the time when we can either choose to think or reinforce the program, I'm alone, I've been abandoned, no one cares about me. We can choose that, or we can choose to have faith in this experience. And you know, it's that period that I was talking about, which is kind of the bridge from one program or one old paradigm to the new paradigm. And this bridge is where you have to have faith. You have to find in yourself a place of surrender where you can open up and you can receive new information about your experience. So when you're going through a pattern of distress, and you've probably been in those places time and time again, same old, right? So an experience from my life is drinking. I would, years ago, you know, I used to drink to excess and drink to comfort myself and soothe my nervous system because I was so frazzled all the time. And I would find myself, you know, periodically in a state of real despair about this. Like, why am I doing this to myself? And I feel so awful when I drink, and you know, and I know it's not good to be addicted to things, and I would kind of get into this this really dark place where I would admit what was going on, but I wouldn't have any tools to get myself out of it. I would just feel bad. So there came a time after, you know, many times of feeling that way and thinking those thoughts, where one day I just surrendered. I actually was trying to give up alcohol at that time, and I had I'd gone through several months of trying, and you know, I kept failing. I kept getting so far. I was trying to do 14 days, I remember, and I kept getting to sort of day 12 or day 13, and then I'd fall off the wagon. I'd go and buy a bottle of red wine and have a drink, and then on one of these particular nights when that was happening, and I'd gone and got this bottle of red wine, and I'd had my couple of glasses, and nervous system calmed down. That was when I just gave up. I just surrendered. I was in sobs on the floor, begging God. And in that moment of surrendering, because I had nothing left, because my ego had nothing to hold on to, the old story that I'd been telling just gave way. And it was like I was a puddle on the floor. Ego dissolved, heart open, mind open, willing to receive grace, willing to receive from that which is beyond the limits of my ego. And the next morning I woke up in a state of incredible and ecstatic bliss, connected. I remember opening my eyes and looking at the light and going, oh my God, does the world always look like this? How did I not see this before? Now that state of bliss and connection lasted for me for about 3 months at that time. So it was an abiding state of bliss that was life-changing, as you probably can imagine if any of you have had peak experiences, and these are becoming more and more common now as we start to rise in frequency. Each of us, you know, we're shedding the things that don't serve us, we're shedding the things that keep us held in fear, and we're beginning to spontaneously rise. And you do not need to be a monk to do it. Meditating for years on a mountain, you do not need to take drugs to do it. There is an energy field around us that we're all able to tune into. But just like my experience with that surrender, we have to be in a state of openness. We have to be willing to let go of the old and step into the new to actually receive it. It's kind of like, another analogy would be like expecting you to see the brightness of the beautiful sun if you're wearing sunglasses. Yeah. So these old beliefs, they like shield us, stop our vision from seeing what's really there. So surrender. So I'm going to give you another image to help you understand how connected you are, just how profoundly woven into the fabric of the universe you are, and you cannot be separated from it. And that is the image of Jello. So jelly or Jello, depending what part of the world you're from. Imagine a nice big slab of the stuff. Now that jelly represents the universal energy field, the intelligent energy field of consciousness that we all live in. And if you prod that jelly with your finger on one end, what happens is it wobbles and it affects the whole. And that is how time-space work. That's how the universe works. Every single thing that is thought. So it's not just what you do that affects the jelly, it's what you think. Because everything is a vibration. So even a thought has a vibration. Even a thought goes out there. The good news is, the good thoughts, the thoughts that are love-filled and wise and compassionate and wanting to come from unity consciousness, are those that they have a greater impact. They affect the whole much more strongly. This is frequency we're talking about now. The frequency of the emotional intent behind the thought. For more on that, have a look at my timelines and frequencies video, because yeah, it's a complex subject to discuss. Yeah. So you are very much a part of this world that you're living in. And all you need to do sometimes is breathe to appreciate that. But I understand that it takes more than that to convince your mind. That's why I make these videos. It's to try to help the mind, because the mind is like the ego part of us that holds on to these old beliefs. And, you know, mind is going to need some patience from you. And when I say you are not your mind. You are the whole of you. That includes your multidimensional aspects, your past lives, your future lives. All these things collapse when we leave the third dimension. From the fourth dimension onwards, there is no time as we know it here. So all of the experiences that you've ever had, will have, or are having now are a part of you. You are vast, you are infinite, and you are at one with the universe. You are the universe. So that you is going to be gently encouraging your mind, which is the small part of you, the little Louisa in the human body, whispering to her, you are not alone. The whole world is here. You are the world. So this is the first program. It's the foundation program. That's why I presented it first. If you didn't get it, don't worry. Stick with me. Come back for the next video, because I'm going to be talking about programs that may well be very relevant in your life, and we can come back to this foundational program as I go along, and hopefully it'll become clearer. I want to talk about more about the I am powerless story. So stemming from the I am separate story, there's an I am powerless story. Let's reclaim our power. Let's find out just how powerful we really are, and start owning that, embracing it, living it. So I also want to look at the feminine is bad versus the masculine is good story. We are going through, as we awaken and ascend, we're going through a big rebalancing here. We're bringing in a lot of the feminine aspects that have been denied and degraded and demonized over the eons. So that's part of the program busting. I'd like to look at, it's just your imagination story. It's really time that we start to appreciate our inner world, what goes on in here, in our hearts, as being critically important to our reality. Another one I want to look at is the family before self, or self before others. Sorry, others before self. That program which has taught us to always put others first, and that our own needs should be on the back burner. So let's tackle that one. Let's bust that one as well, because that's also a big part of your healing journey. The money program. The sexuality program, the need to prove your worth program, that one's good for high achievers and perfectionists, and the it's human nature or it's not possible program. So these are the programs I want to play with. Who knows, some more might come up. If you've got some suggestions, let me know, because I'll be making this as a kind of a rolling project, so always open to feedback. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm sorry it was a bit chopping lots of edits, because I had some noise from power tools and chainsaws or whippersnippers or whatever they were, so interrupting my beautiful space. Yes, so lots of love to everybody, and blessings, and namaste.